I will demonstrate how you can connect to your server with VS Code and SSH. So the first part of this video will be for Windows, and the second part will be for Linux system. So in VS Code, you will need to install Remote Development Extension. So it's gonna install these 4 extensions. It's a bundle. And what we are gonna use is SSH and SSH editing configuration files. So once the installation is completed, you can find this icon here, and you choose SSH targets from the dropdown. Add new, and you will need to enter the command for connecting your server. For this part, you will need your server's IP address. So for me, I use AWS server, so I can find the IP address here. You can also use DNS. Other than your IP address, you will also need your username for your server. So I use a Ubuntu server on AWS. By default, the username is Ubuntu, so I'm gonna connect Ubuntu and add enter. Then you need to choose your SSH configuration file. I will choose the first one, and you will need to remember this file address. Hopefully, you have this option to open the configuration file. If not, you have the option to go to your C drive, users, your username, and .ssh. So that's the address you remembered. From here, you can also find this configuration file, and you can open it here. So this is the IP address I just added. For host, you can change it to any name you like. I will make it AWS server. Host name is either IP address or DNS. User is Ubuntu, which I just entered. And you need another thing called identity file. For some servers that does not require a key file or identity file to log in, you will need password to log in. So for example, this one, it's gonna prompt you for your password, and you can enter it and log in. That's easy. But for my AWS server, it requires a key file. It has an extension of .pem, just like this one. So we will need a key file. This key file can be downloaded when you create your server. I downloaded this file when I create my server from AWS. So I have this key file stored here. I'm gonna download it. It's right here. So I'm gonna copy it and place it here. Okay, let me copy the address and paste it here. Backslash, and I will also need the file name, just like this one. After configuring the configuration file, we can refresh. Remember that you have to refresh, because the host will change, and if you don't refresh, it may not recognize this file. And after refreshing, connect, you may encounter some problem. So if you look into the logs, you can find the reason. So bad permissions, so the key file permission for this key file is to open, and it says your private key files are not accessible by others. Okay, so we know the reason and we want to fix it. So if we open properties of this file and go to security, you can see that there are some groups and users. These are the people who have access to this file. So the reason it complains about permission is it's too open. So I want to make this file only accessible to myself. I will remove every single one of them. And I will do this by disable inheritance first. And inherited from will be all none. Then I can remove them. I will remove everyone. and add myself. So here you can copy this, paste it. So it's my PC name. You need to copy your PC name and add the backslash and your username, your current username. You can find your current username from C drive, users, and here it's your username. Check names. If nothing displayed, that means your username is correct. So OK. Apply. Okay. So you see that the owner of this file is only myself, and I have read access and execute access to it. Okay. Now we refresh and connect again. It's connected. So if I open the terminal, you can see that this is my username. I'm connected to my AWS server. For the second part of the video, I'm going to demonstrate the same thing for Linux. So here I have a Ubuntu, and we need to install remote development. And the process is basically the same except for the location of the SSH configuration file. So I will go very fast. I will download my key file. Copy the IP address. And it's my username. Your username can be found here in case you don't know. So enter. So I will need to put the configuration file. Okay, I will show you the location. It's in home, and .ssh is right here. Code you can open here. So I will change the name. You don't have to change it. Identity file. And my identity file is in downloads folder here. So the address is downloads and the file name. Refresh and connect. So the same issue, if you look at the log, it will say the permission is too open and cannot be accessible by others. So you will do the same thing. I will open a terminal here. If we look at the permissions for this private key file, you can see that for me, I have read and write access. For group and others, we also have read access. So that's what we don't want. So we can do this. I will change to 400 and the file name. So 400 means only myself can read it. So if you have, you can also change it to 600. So only myself can read and write it. Now it should be okay. Yeah, I'm connected. It's similar for Windows and Linux. For Mac, it's the same as Linux. The location of the SSH configuration file is the same. It will be under home, your username, and .ssh. So basically, it's home.ssh and config.